like to begin tonight by asking you to reveal what would you say is one of your hardest questions about yoga? Or what is it, something that puzzles you about yoga? Yes, sir.
For me, I'm thinking about karma yoga and how to move through life with this non-attachment to outcome with what you're doing. And so you're moving through life and you're trying to have some sort of selfless service without attachment. But the struggle for me is, what do I do when I want to move through life with more kind demeanor, but sometimes it's tough to do that because people don't always give you the same respect. Or they see it as weakness sometimes if you're more kind. Or sometimes they won't always treat you the same way as if you had a firm demeanor or very firm boundaries. You know. And so particularly I think about how I work with children and how middle schoolers in general will push your buttons and try to like find the edges. It's just the age. You know, so they're trying to figure out what can I do to see how can I make people react to me, you know, or what happens when I do this, you know, will they react this way? What are the emotional limits of what I'm doing to other people? And so when I come into the classroom with a more, I don't want to say authoritarian, but more like very serious demeanor, you know, like very like, this is the way it has to be, and these are the expectations. I get more respect from the classroom, but it doesn't feel as good to me as if I go through and I have more of a more sweet demeanor, you know, or more naturally like I'd have with an adult, you know. And so with karma yoga, it's hard for me to know, does it matter the selfless service, what kind of demeanor you're presenting, or just the fact that you're trying to be a selfless service, or how to reconcile those two things?
Okay. Well, obviously you're dealing with children and not adults. So your actions towards them are going to have to respect their limitations. And so, as you've seen by, as you call it, your authoritative manner, you seem to get better results. I would stick with that, because that's what they need at the moment. That's why they're responding the way they are. So you have to discern where people are at and adjust them in order to get your message across. Huh? So it's really a matter of just paying attention to the crowd you're with, and you'll just have to be as perceptive as you can in that midst, and simply move on from there. I wouldn't worry about karma or anything like that. That'll take care of itself. Actually, karma means action, so don't worry. Don't go beyond that too much. So your actions towards the child, you'll see the results immediately, as you have. And so you continue that. If you met a different crowd, you'd address them a little differently. That's all. It's up to you to be as discerning as possible. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
How what I'm kind of struggling with a little bit right now is how to trust my instincts, or to trust what I would call inner guidance. You know, what you feel is the right thing to do next.
Well, do it and see what happens.
Just do it anyway and see what happens. Okay. Well, sometimes those things that you choose to do, it can be like have a huge impact, and
that's right.
And
so then you got to make the adjustment.
Yeah, sometimes it's a big adjustment, though.
That's right.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So
just don't do it to us.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
The place that I find myself in lately is that I feel like I'm far enough along my path that I have a lot of increased awareness.
Mm-hmm.
But that increased awareness so far feels like more of a negative to me.
Why?
I feel like I hear everything and it distracts me and all I want is quiet. And I hear and feel all these things that...
In your head or outside you?
Outside.
Oh. So the atmosphere you're in, you get all this noise, so to speak?
It's like my hearing's so much better than it used to be
Can
that
you
I'm...
put something in your ears? I do it all the time in coffee shops.
I do, and that doesn't...
Hmm?
That doesn't... I hear through it.
Oh yeah, you will a little bit. I can sympathize with you. I have very sharp hearing. That's why I hate to go into coffee shops. And so I'm very selective of them. And since you can't change that, you just have to see if you can somehow, or put it better, are you necessitated to being in that environment?
In a coffee shop?
No,
Or what?
where your noises are.
Well, I just got a new furnace in my house, and I am struggling with it. And it's waking me up at night.
Anybody here can help her out on furnaces?
Anyone else on radiator
So it's the
heat my
furnace
house?
that's causing the noise, you're saying?
Yeah.
Can you call them up and ask them to help you out?
I have.
Have they?
I just called today, so they're going to send a tech person out.
So maybe we better hold off on that question until next time.
Okay.
We're gonna see if, you ask them you'd like to have it quieter because it's very disturbing. Be very plain and frank with them so they get the idea. Don't let them just tinker, you really want it quiet. Okay.
Does it constantly run the same RPMs, 24/7? Some furnaces do that.
Then they can help you.
Some when the
Okay.
heat comes on, then the furnace quiets down after the air's been circulated.
It's a multi-phase or two-stage or something like that. So, but my big problem is there's a very low rumbling that most people wouldn't hear, and it undulates. So it's like, and so my other furnace. Who thought you were all going to be treated to my furnace at Satsang? Instead of making a constant noise, oh, thank you. It just is like constantly rumbling in ways that draw my attention over and over again, and I feel the vibration in my heart, and it just distresses me.
Okay, well, you talk to them.
Okay.
Tell them to quiet it down. Insulate it somehow, whatever it suggests to them. See what they can do.
So it's brand new. It's,
Yeah.
sometimes you might just get used to it after a while.
I don't think she will.
No?
I know this girl.
Make sure they check the damper.
Check it. Okay, I'm going to connect with you afterwards.
I have a similar experience and suggestion.
Okay.
I've got a furnace in the area that I meditate, and initially it was distracting just because that was like, it took all of my attention. But after a while I noticed the intricacies within the sound, and it became a pattern, and it had some beauty to it. So periodically I would get drawn into it that way, and it made it a little better.
Okay.
Because everything's got a song. Even, we might see it as an irritant, but if it changes just the way you but it does, we can see it that way.
So
We
you
could
say.
try.
I like what you're saying. Thank you.
Try.
I will.
See?
Yeah. I try to tell
A
myself
lot
it
of
was the
wisdom in
ocean.
this class. Keep it going, gang. Anything else?
Well, there's a rhythm. There's a lot of rhythms going on in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, the turn signal on your car. If you kind of do your mantra with all the rhythms, it kind of takes it away. Because you can do it to any rhythm, as long as it's a rhythm. Well, it works. So stuff doesn't bother me.
Good.
Thank you.
When you first said that, and I know I already said something once, but when you said that, I thought you meant mental noise from other people. Because for me, that's
Oh.
something I struggle with too, is like, as you become more spiritually aware, you can almost feel like you are more in tune with other people's vibrations. And particularly when you're around a lot of people, it can be very easy to kind of almost empathize with them and kind of resonate where they're at, instead of kind of staying in your own energy. And the struggle for me is to not go down into other people's energy, but it's something that I struggle with a lot.
Okay. When I was at a restaurant recently, I was observing the ambiance of the waiters, other people moving about, sitting at their tables, carrying on their conversation, and just being aware. And then I realized I was watching also 3 televisions that were up near the ceiling. 2 of the televisions were narrating an event in another part of the globe. One in England and one in Spain. The third one was out in Los Angeles. And it suddenly hit me. Here I am in St. Paul. I'm aware of my immediate surroundings, and simultaneously I'm in Spain, England, and California. Now think about that. I'm actually there because I am seeing what's going on. And then it occurred to me, this is what consciousness is all about. Now, I didn't intend to be aware of those 3 different parts of the world and the immediate one. I was simply at ease, just observing where I'm sitting, but in no particular intent, except to be aware of where I'm at. But where I'm at made me simultaneously aware of 3 different areas of the world, including the one that's immediately in front of me. Then I realized that's the way your consciousness is going to work on your terms. Because the TV had to bring it to me. If they turned it off, I would lose my connection to that country. But as you meditate one day, you're going to discover that the moment you have an awareness and give it any intent, you will be there. You will actually be present to that reality that you're intending. So that if I wanted to sit home and watch 2 football games and a soccer game, I could do that without turning on my TV. I could simply be aware because I am present there with my consciousness. And that's what's unique to your consciousness. It's meant to know whatever you intend. for as long as you intended. Now, you will, as I say, you do that all the time, every day when you're working or driving or being with friends. Why do you know what's going on? Because you intend to be present to what is going on. That's your choice. And if you're enjoying a conversation and suddenly you see something going over there, you immediately expand and you're aware of what's going on over there. Now think about it. As you continue to grow in meditation, you will discover that you can become more and more aware of whatever you want to intend. You can quote me on that one. More and more aware of whatever you intend. And there's a bonus. There's a certain enjoyment about that ability. And why is there that enjoyment? Hang on to this. Because you're fulfilling your nature. You think, what do you mean I'm fulfilling my nature? Because your nature is to know anything at all, at any time, for as long as you want to. Now hang on, there's one more, there's a bonus. One day that knowing, even though it's in another part of the globe, the fact that you know, the act of knowing it from where you are, even though it's 1,000 miles away, you will be able to affect it at the same time. You won't be just eavesdropping. You will also be able to affect that environment in some way. Not bad, huh? That's what we're capable of. That's our potential. That's what the rest of your nature is all about as you go about. Now, in the act of meditation and contemplation, you are, as it were, germinating the ability to do that. Because when people who do not meditate are simply stuck where they're at. That's the circumference of their awareness. And that's all they feel. And that, you see that's just the way they react then. Because they're not aware of anything else about themselves except what is immediately present to them through their senses, which gives them the mental apprehension of what it is. So the more you meditate, the more you'll be able to be aware as keenly as anybody else of what's immediately in front of you, but without being so caught in it that you can't be beyond it at the same time. That's what's called non-attachment. Now, there's a subtlety here. You must first be attached to what you're doing, otherwise you can't do it. But at the same time, you must not be so completely enthralled that you're, as it were, covered up by it, caught totally within its parameters. It's like if you were teaching second graders. You've got what, 10, 15 kids or more in your class? While you're giving your lesson, you've got to be aware of what's going on over there. Who's talking to who, who's playing around, huh? That expansion of your awareness is the fruit of your meditation. So you are already disposed to do it by your nature, and meditation simply enhances and matures and strengthens that ability. Does this make sense? Not bad, huh? For who we are. And especially when we can start to affect what we're aware of, even though we're physically far, far away from it. So your physical presence is not a handicap as you continue to grow. It's simply, well, this is where I am. I'm in this embodied awareness right now, but it doesn't limit my consciousness. I thought that was very interesting how the TV suddenly, I got it. Huh? Think about that. You're present through the TV in another part of the world. Yeah, really there, through the TV though. Primarily. And one day you'll be able to do it. Because I used to sit with Swami Rama, and I tried to be keenly aware of his inflections or his moods, because I could always learn something from it. Suddenly I saw his eyes dart, and I said, "Where'd you go?" And he'd tell me, "Oh, I'm looking on so-and-so," who was 4 states away from where we were in Pennsylvania. I said, okay. So again, you keep adding those up, and finally it connects. I got it. I know what this means. And that makes it rather exciting, I think. So the more and more that expansion occurs, the more and more you're going to appreciate human existence. And if you appreciate human existence, you're going to share that. People are going to feel that about you. They're going to like to be near you. So there's a embraciveness, and of course that will encourage them at the same time in subtle ways to pursue their path. Any questions?
Seems like there's a fine line between that initial desire and then almost at the same time not be attached.
Well, be careful. People get hung up in this notion of attachment
I know.
all the time.
So
No, just pursue it, your desire, and see where it leads you. If I'm going to pick up a donut to eat it, I have to get attached to it. Okay, right. But I don't have to keep carrying it around me as I drive in my car and do the rest of my work for the day. I let it go. So the attachment has to fit the circumstances. When that does it that way, it's the way it should be. You cannot do anything without being attached. It's impossible.
is that like synonymous with the word desire?
Yep.
Okay, that helps. Mentioned at the first part of the discourse that you could be 3 places at the same time, I thought. You said
Yes,
that.
you can. You can't do it now. Okay.
No, I understand that, but are you just like above the earth or something in your consciousness?
No. It's hard to come up with a figure of speech or a comparison here. You're not above. The one I like to say is you're totally aware of this object, but you still have more awareness that's not being used up. So that another portion of your awareness can also be aware of that. So you could be aware of 3 items in different distances simultaneously. I know that's hard to believe. But in a sense, as I'm talking to you now, I'm aware of what's going on over here. If they move, I know they move, even though I'm concentrating primarily here and talking to this direction. Got it?
Mhm.
Okay. Keep enhancing that. I know it's subtle, but when you play with it, you begin to get a clue now and then. I think I begin to see what that, and then you just marvel at the fact, what is your soul, your consciousness, huh? And at the same time, you have to respect your current status. By that I mean, I'm in a body. And therefore, I can use my body in the most enriching way to convey what I want to say or desire to say to whoever I'm with. Do you ever notice how much people move their hands when they talk? I would like to go up and say, continue talking, but just hold your hands steady, and I'd like to see if they could do it. I mean, their hands and their body movement, as I'm doing now, becomes so much an expression of their audibleness. Huh? I think, see if you can do it with just the sound. And you will also have this experience that when you are speaking with your friends and there's a rapport that keeps growing and growing between you two, and the result of that rapport is there's such a new kind of enlightenment going on. And that's the way it's supposed to be. So Swamiji could be sitting in the recliner chatting with Devi and me and be totally aware of any student he wanted to be. He could feel what they feel. He knew their current desires. And yet at the same time be totally aware of engaging with us. Huh? You have multiple awarenesses in a sense within your consciousness. I know that's hard to believe because we're so limited at this moment, but you will have flickers of that. You probably have had some experiences where you've been amazed. Like I say, the school teacher watching the second graders, she's got to be aware of the whole class and yet concentrate on the lesson. So the more you play with that, I think the more the insight will start to come up in you, what this is all about.
I have a question.
I hope so.
Yeah. So if we have the capacity to be and to think and have an awareness and beyond our physical parameters in another place,
Good way to put it.
what would be an example or a way that we're affecting our experience in that other place? And how would we be aware of it if our...
Well, if you're aware of it, you'd be aware of anything that's going on in that environment. You'd also be aware if you're affecting it. Just as much as you are when you're sitting in your coffee shop talking to someone and watching their face. You can tell if they're suddenly got it. You're Swami used to say, I can't force your mind to change, but I can give you hints. I can bring certain images before you, but I can't force you to adapt them. You decide that. So in that sense, you might be able to affect someone or help them out or in their little inner struggle by, as it were, dropping an image or a thought in their mind and see if that catches their attention, which would immediately then alter all their tension to some extent. You also can affect material things much easier because they don't have any resistance. But that's another topic. Consider right now, if you take your blood pressure, your pulse. Now you start to slow down your breathing in a more regulated pattern, your pulse will change. You change your pulse. You change how the blood was flowing through your body. Because it was your blood, it didn't resist. So when people say, oh, I can't change my mind, yes, you can. One of the easiest ways is, first of all, go to your breath. If you can't feel your pulse, can you feel your tummy? Of course you can. Move it in, put your hand there, you're back and forth. The moment you've done that, you've taken their mind off what they claim they can't get rid of. And then you can say to them, as a first aid, and it works amazingly well, just go to your breath. Put your hand on your tummy. If you need to be more convinced, you need a physical assurity, then put your hand on your tummy and just do diaphragmatic breathing. And don't worry about anything. Think all you want, but concentrate here. And that's so easy, and there's nothing that's going to, resist them in that effort to concentrate on their breathing. And you got them right there. There's all ways of doing it. Go for a walk, huh? Or put on your favorite music. But the immediate one is working with your own body and its vitality. That's all you're doing. Is you're concentrating on the vital motions that are constantly keeping you alive. When you have pain, physical pain, in the body, without denying it, without criticizing what you're about to do, just breathe up and down. And see if you can push some of your attention onto that breathing. Don't worry about the pain or the fact that you are thinking of it, you're caught up. Just at the same time, as best you can, go to your breathing and watch what happens. Sometimes when I used to go to a dentist occasionally, and I knew he was going to drill, I hate drilling. I think Leela doesn't like it either. I would say, you ready to drill? Okay, give me 10 seconds. And I'd set myself with my mantra and my breathing, combination. No matter what was going on, and it hurt, I said, I'm going to stay here. If I slip, I'd come back. Just come back and just stay there. And that took some of it down. See, you have a nature, and this is the hardest thing and the most resistant in virtually any society to get across. But one of your goals, not all, but one of the major goals is to be able to control completely the pain level of your body. Wouldn't that be nice? Yes. To be able to withstand anything anybody does to your body to hurt it. When Swamiji had an incest, there was pus in his hip because of an injury. It was way deep in, which means they had to operate and get carved through some of the bone to get at it. He was sharing it with me. He says, I got to find a doctor that will not give me an anesthetic, because I'm not supposed to ever have anesthetic. To lose my connection to my body? I worked too hard to have total unity with it. I've got to convince him not to give me anything, but just to dig in after I set myself so that I don't feel the pain at all. How about that? I see I get my point across here. You too. Can you imagine? Save a lot of money, anesthetics and stuff, you know. So we finally found one in Illinois. What's the capital city of Illinois?
Des Moines?
Springfield.
Des Moines?
Oh, that's Iowa.
Oh, that's Iowa.
Gillette or
Springfield.
Springfield.
We found a doctor down in
yeah.
Springfield. And the doctor, he said, I want your word on it. And don't you dare fib. But you are not to give me any, you're just to go in there and dig and get it out. Let me worry about it. In fact, he was telling him where to dig. He said, no, you're off the point. Get over it. How about that? See? So you got to even assist the surgeon. That's what you're going to be capable of doing. Put that aside, but keep the principle. Look, right now, you can raise your hand, right? Does your body resist? No. Close your fist? No. Turn your head? No. Any level of your corporeality, I like that word, you'll be able to direct with the ease of closing your fingers or opening them up. Any level. You'll be able to stop the blood, even, from going there if you want. So that the infection dies, because if that's not getting any new blood to use to keep it going, you'll be able to stop it and scrape it out. Put a little Curacum if you want. Forget. You're headed that way now. Your body is meant to follow the intent, whatever you have in terms of your desires. You sit up, you move, you go in different directions, you lie down. Your body doesn't fight you. No organ in your body will ever fight you one day, will resist you. Not because it wants to, but because in normal parlance of human nature, people don't realize they have this capacity, and so they can't exercise it. And physicians will completely tell you don't, but you do. So there's such a grandioseness to us as human beings. And then one day you discover you're immortal. Your soul can't die. It's not possible. It also can't get wet or hungry. Only your body can. Oh. what puzzled me for a long time is, why did we come into a body at all? If we're already immortal, why would I want to, as it were, drop down out of that immortality in total awareness? I said, nuts. Why did I have to come around again? Weary with this lump of flesh, you know?
Mhm.
It's to help us.
Very good.
Yeah, right.
I hadn't thought of that then. Very good. Ah, yes. We want to journey through matter. I hope someday I can really completely understand why we had to come back into matter. I'm here, but why did we, ultimately? Well, I guess to enjoy matter on its own terms. Okay. But I want to get to the point where I can totally control my matter. That's all. I want to live as long as I want in this damn matter, or at least sustaining it. That's the point.
Did you ever ask Jaidev that?
Yes,
And what did he say?
he didn't say anything. So I keep badgering him until he's going to get tired of me saying. Yeah, my prayer is I want to stay as long as I can, but stay healthy at the same time. That's all. I don't want to lose any awareness. I want to keep the sharp hearing I got, and I can also have very sharp smelling sensations. I can tell everybody what they're eating as I walk down the hall in my apartment house. You can do that too. And listen, the more you concentrate and endorse it, the sharper it gets. Think about that. How do you foster a habit? You start out, you're very blunt, you make mistakes, you're uneven, so what? Keep going. Slowly the mistakes clear up. They don't occur so frequently. You become more alert within the ambience of that sensation. And that's exactly what happens. Same way as you're feeling a touch. Hearing, of course. But even when you're walking, when I go to St. Kate's, I notice more than half the young women look down when they walk instead of out or above. It's so much prettier to look up than at cement, you know? And that's one other point I wanted to make. It seems to be hard for people to appreciate what their senses are for. Your senses are not made to look at cement, or to curve your neck. Your senses are to admire reality. Think about that. To admire. Not just grasp, but to admire. Now, the more you acclimate yourself to admiring reality, the more reality you will see is admirable. How do you like that one? That belongs in the weekly. Everybody got it? Huh? So, you know, you invite your friends over for a meal, and you knock yourself out to prepare just right for them. Now, they don't know that. And it comes out, and that you can see in their faces they really enjoy it. Now, that has manifold effects. One, it develops your ability to cook better. Two, it develops your ability to enjoy the act of cooking. and the act of cooking for people that you're fond of. 3, the fact that they enjoy your meals so much, they'll like you even more. Hopefully. Especially of omelets. Anyway, I think you begin to see. Look how everything enhances, endorses, and that's the way it should be. Now when people commit evil, the same result comes, but it's just the opposite. It's this kind of self-destruction after a while. You lose your ability to appreciate. Really, you will. It'll be narrowed down. So, you are free to use your senses to make your choices as you will. You decide your destiny. And that's, to me, the beauty of it all. Now the sages, you got a hidden bonus system. Don't let them know I told you this. But they will help you. They'll drop things in your, they'll call upon the pukas. And, oh my God, there's a sale today on tiramisu, and I didn't know it. You happened to be just there at the right time, see? That will happen too. Yes?
Well, I was associating all the senses, you know, this sense of smell with the chakra and the lower one and all
Yeah.
that. So does your mental state or how you're thinking
Mm-hmm.
affect your chakras?
Yes, definitely.
So that your mind power has power over that subtle body.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. Mhm. Definitely. Like I say, you know, when we're on retreat, I often encourage people, go for a walk in the woods with your friends, but don't talk. Just be aware with your senses, everything. And just notice what happens. What do you hear? What do you see? What do you feel in the sunlight or the shade? And the more you affirm those choices, the more the reality and the truth of what is there will reveal itself to you. So, unless you're engaged simply by exploring the range and the depth of your senses, you can't really appreciate them. So that's why it's so important to simply be aware of your complete consciousness while you're in the body.
So walking in the woods like you were talking, you're just kind of aware. I find that you can just drop down into a stillness. Is that area that you're talking about that you go
Yep.
I mean, that's the, it seems like it's a ground, although
I-
it's not a ground. It's
I agree with you, I know what you mean.
of absolute stillness.
And because you're in that absolute stillness, you're more sensorially aware of what's going on. So the two coordinate, huh? They serve each other. I once did an experiment. Don't try it. Many years ago, I've been in yoga with Swamiji and so on. And I visited friends of my house, and the baby was crying, and the mother was distraught. She couldn't get it to shut up. And she didn't realize her own distraughtness was affecting the child, huh? Well, we were friends, so I said, Marge, would you mind if I attended to your child a little bit? Oh, go ahead, do anything. So I centered myself, and in the most engaging manner, I went over, picked the child up, and I held it to my breast. And I raised diaphragmatically, of course, said my mantra, with the intent, that's okay, you can cry, but you'll feel better very soon, you know. I just held her there. And within a few minutes, guess what happened? She fell asleep. And the mother looked at me. How much do you want if you come here every day? To me, it was an experiment, but I just sensed, I think I could affect the child, you know? Because I was fond of her children, I was fond of her and her husband. I said, well, what have I got to lose? Come on, we can do it, we can do it. Yes, we'll do it. And I held it. I was so pleased I didn't want to go home. I wanted to take the baby with me, you know? And I thought, look at that. Huh? I was once at a house, where was it? Was it Honesdale? The dog, they had a dog, and he had a wound on his thigh. He was in a lot of pain. And I said, would you mind if I approach up? Well, if he'll let you. Don't worry, he will. So I looked at him in my most doggish manner. And I spoke to him gently. I said, hi there. I called him by his name. And I held out my fist like this. This is always the way you do it. This is the friendly way, not this way. He thinks he's going to get hit. And he sniffed, and I could tell he accepted me, and I petted him. I petted him. And my hand moved down more, and I was watching him very carefully. And finally, my hand went over the wound. And we just held it there, and I kept breathing. And people were watching me. How did he do that? You know. The dog was there, and I could tell he felt better, and he felt better. And I held it there for about 10, 15 minutes, a long time, till I felt, okay, that's enough. And I took my hand away. That dog followed me all over the house from that point on. That's what I mean, huh? The rapport. It's a living creature, so am I. So why don't we join in some way? That's what friendship is all about. I was making friends with the pup, or the dog. He was accepting it. And in that act of acceptance, somehow reduced the pain, so he didn't have to concentrate totally on the pain. He was saying, who is this guy? I like him. And so I find that experiment. Well, gang, what should we do? Should we stand up, stretch a minute, then meditate?